Welcome to Today with Totally Out Now. I'm Raga Olga De Silva, or Totally Out Now as you know me. As you know, India is currently debating same sex marriage equality rights. The Supreme Court of India is continuing to hear a bunch of petitions seeking legal recognition of same sex marriage or marriage equality, as we all want to call it. The Bar Council of India passed a resolution yesterday, which is the 24th of April, stating that the legislature was truly reflective of the will of the people and best suited to deal with the issue of same sex marriage. They further stated that more than 99.9% of the people of the country were opposed to same sex marriage. It left us all perplexed. Where did this data come from, for instance? Who is the society? Does the society dictate the law, or does the law dictate society? So we thought we'll bring back our expert, Mugdha Pande, lawyer at the Supreme Court of India, and discuss with her the latest developments in the Supreme Court at the hearing and understand the general sense of the 99.9% of the citizens that the BCI has quoted in their resolution. So Mugdha, welcome once again.
Hi, Raga.
Now that you are back on our show, I don't think we need much of a reintroduction for you. A lot of people know you. And by the way, just so that you know, we got amazing feedback for your conversation last week. And you're back here by demand, by public demand. So welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm I'm going to start with the hearing, and then I want to go on to all the other things that we are hearing back here in India. Remember, our point of information is what's happening on Twitter, on social media, the newspaper headlines that come, and whatever little media access that we have here. Now, we were told last week on Friday, the WhatsApp University started circulating messages that, two judges are down with COVID. Now it's not going to happen. People started spreading rumors that all this is now a sabotage. We are hijacked. Nothing is going to happen. This is going to go on and on. So I just want to understand from that point of view, what should we be listening to and what is the right way to go about this?
See, luckily now we have live streaming, right? So it's for everyone to see what is going on, right? And honestly, it's not just with respect to this case, but I've seen that in every case because people are so personally involved in cases. They go on to conspiracy theories, right? The moment something or the other, goes off or it's not working out the way they wanted. Well, it's true that there are two the judges of the Constitution bench who are down with COVID, and that was one of the reasons why the bench did not assemble on Monday. However, today they did, and the two judges who were down with COVID, they joined virtually.
Okay.
So 3 sat in the court and 2 were online. So that's that. But I think one of the most the important development that has been in the way the court proceedings happen is live streaming, right? So people should go see it for themselves rather than believing on Twitter, or because if you have access to what is actually going on, you don't need to rely on Twitter or WhatsApp or whatever. Go see it for yourself.
If anybody wants access, please let us know. We are happy to share a link. Or if you just go online and Google same-sex marriage news India, many ways of getting access to that. We've been watching the hearing online as well all day. So Mugdha, so what's the latest? What's happening? Last week it felt very, very hopeful for us. And I remember we had you at the end of the week last week, and I said to you, I'm very optimistic. Then for some reason, there was a little bit of, we all felt a bit of, the spirit was a little down today. And I wasn't sure over the weekend, there were conversations happening within our LGBT community saying, now what's going on, what's going to happen. So just can you give us an update from last week to now, to today, what has happened?
I think what is happening is that the judges are, it started on a very high note. Why? Because they came in with the objective that they really want to help LGBT community get access to those rights, or sort of help in developing jurisprudence that can help LGBT community. And that's how it should be, right? Because we are a progressive, we want to, like, our constitutional values should not and cannot deter us from progressing. I think India has one of the finest constitutions. It's a It's an artwork that the Constitution, and it's an anchor for our society. We keep whatever issue, we keep coming back to it and trying to find out our constitutional values. I try to find out what is the vision for our country, right? We keep drawing our strength from the Constitution. So yes, I think what now the morale or the enthusiasm came a notch down after day one, day two, three, is because as the hearings are progressing, the court is realizing its limitations, right? It's they really want to uh, like for example today, Justice Chandrachud, when Dr. Mineka Guruswamy was arguing yesterday, she spoke about a bouquet of rights, or marriage is a bouquet of rights, and one of them is inheritance, gratuity, provident fund, all of these things, basically property, inheritance, all of that. He said that I agree that this is something in principle you ought to be getting it, right? Because but how far can we stretch the scope of this statute, right? You cannot completely destroy the meaning of the words of a statute. That's not the court will ever do or embark upon. And so yes, you understand, you're talking about marriage, you're talking about the ceremony, right? But you are not just restricting yourself to it. You are saying allow us to enjoy all those rights which the heterosexual couples in India do. Now the trouble is that, okay, you have kept out all the personal laws from the purview of this challenge. But even if you look at just the Special Marriage Act, they started exploring on the laws that, what we spoke about last time. You start with the meaning of the word, like the man and woman,
Yeah.
right? In section 4A, the word, the meaning, the way spouse has been understood in that act. What are the prohibited relations, right? Now, if you look at the prohibited relations under the Special Marriage Act, section 4B, right, it talks about the relations which are prohibited from a man marrying into, in the sense that if you look at it, the man is prohibited from marrying all the heterosexual relations in the prohibited relations. A man is prohibited from marrying mother, sister. There is no brother in that category. It means to say that the object of that act was always meant for heterosexuals, right? So that's why he asked a very point blank question to Mr. Saurav Kirpal, that do you think the object of Special Marriage Act could have also been to include persons of belonging to same sex? He point blankly said no, that cannot be an interpretation. However, this was in 1950s, so it could not have been. However, now, what about our rights now? What about our rights after Navdeep Singh Johar? This was when 377 decriminalization was not in place, right? But now we have decriminalized homosexuality. We have read down 377. We have NALSA in place where we have recognized transgender. That is a recognized third gender. What about their rights? So all of that, the code is on the same page. What they're struggling with, and this will be a huge task. Like I found it out yesterday, so it'll be a Herculean task, because in the existing frame of work, you cannot break the words. You cannot completely destroy the meaning of the words, right? That is not permitted in law. You cannot, uh, like for example, you will have to amend the words. You'll have to amend the meaning of the word husband. You'll have to give explanations. You have to insert explanations to what amounts to consummation in case of lesbian. What are the grounds of divorce? Like for example, in foreign countries, like say America, the grounds of divorce, it's very different culturally. Western countries and India is very different. For in Hindu culture, and which you see Hinduism also is reflected in Special Marriage Act. In our, marriage is not a contract. Marriage is sacrosanct. The institution of marriage has a very, very important place in our society. In America, you don't need to give any good reason to get divorced. We are incompatible, that is good enough, right? In India, I don't have that. In India, it is not able to consummate marriage. impotency, right? Or some sort of mental illness, or you need some very strong reasons to break that institution. Now, how will you? The court will have to first. They'll have to protect our cultural identity, which is of which has which holds the institution of marriage has a very important place in our society. You'll have to balance that out with uh, provisions for same-sex couples. How will you define consummation of marriage or the lack thereof for a lesbian couple? That is a legislative exercise that have to be brought in, and a lot of stakeholders. Right now, before the Supreme Court, there are only 19 writ petitioners. There are 7% people belonging to LGBT community in our country, right? That is 70 million people.
That's
So
right.
many people will have to be consulted. That's what a lot of people have been saying also. You'll have to listen to, I'm not saying you have to listen to fanatics, but you have to listen to doctors, you have to listen to therapists, psychologists, right? In order to validate that how gender fluidity and those aspects are very inherent, very innate to your personality. In India,
I'm here. Mugdha may have got disconnected, and that's fine. We will continue. And as Mugdha said, that quote. I mean, I asked why. Yeah, Mugdha is back. So I was just listening to Mugdha saying that quote is like realizing that that there's limitations on how the whole thing can be interpreted. And Mugdha is back.
sorry, this is very bad internet.
Mugdha is in Delhi, those watching, just so that you can excuse us and you can watch the entire segment later as well, as you know. But Mugdha, like you were saying, I just want to interrupt there. And I was
Yeah,
just saying that, like you said, the court has understood or realized its limitations, right?
yeah,
And I think we, as people watching it from the outside, we are invested in this, all of us in the community.
yeah,
We are also beginning to realize that it is not just about getting a paper approval and saying that, hey, same-sex marriage or marriage equality is now your right and you get all the rights. That there is so much more. It's more bigger and complex than we even imagined, I think. And I think it's beginning to reveal itself, the complexity.
yeah.
So do you think that though it is so complex, it's still going to be something that we will continue, we will continue fighting for from both sides? Or at some point, you think that people are going to put up their hands and say, you know what, this is too hard, too complex. We have to take it at another time because it is going to take a lot of time as well, right? Of the courts and of the people.
No, I don't think there's any good time to ask for a right. For sure, that the court, I think the right time was yesterday. The LGBT community, in fact, were marginalized and discriminated for way too long, right? And it's after Navdeep Singh Johar that they have been, because they were being threatened. You could not even come out as a gay person without being sort of be living under that threat that I could be jailed anytime because of 377. It was after Navdeep Singh Johar that LGBT community got a voice, right, where they can openly come and be openly gay and argue as a gay person before the Supreme Court. So I think the time was right after 2018. Only a lot of petitions were filed, and I feel so because it gave them that security that I can be openly gay and I can ask for my rights now.
No, but my question, Mugdha, is different. My question is, do you think that the people who are now delivering or listening to the petitions, they will get fed up of it and tired because it is very complex. The
Yeah.
arguments are happening from both sides, but it is, I mean, today also when I was watching, I realized, wow, this is really, really complex. So
Mm.
do you think at some point somebody will say, yeah, abhi mere bas ki baat nahi, it's too complex for me. Let's first do a lot more homework, then we come back. Or do you think that the discussions will continue for as long as it is required to?
No, I see. It's not that the petitioners who are arguing or the senior counsel, they have got the best legal minds, right? Mr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, Mr. Mukul Rohatgi. They're one of the finest lawyers in our country. There's not one constitutionally important matter which has happened in the last 30, 40 years in which Mr. Singhvi has not argued. So he's one of the top lawyers of the country. And petition legal counsels like Ms. Guruswamy, Dr. Guruswamy, Arundhati Kadjo, they have been living that life. So who's better, who can be better at arguing their own case than, these two individuals, arguing case for LGBT community than these two individuals. So it's not that they need to do more homework. It's just that they are doing their best, the maximum we can get out of this. However, without a legislative intent, without the will of the people, there are limitations to what a court can do in this case. So it's not a giving up a fight or anything. It's trying to push the boundaries, trying to push the limits of jurisprudence and powers of the court. So
Yeah, I like what Anish said to me on the show the other day. He said, even if we don't win, this is victory. And I think a lot of us are hearing that noise outside as well. That we are being heard for the first time ever. People are actually listening. Doesn't matter what the Bar Council of India has said, that 99.9% of the country is opposed to same-sex marriage. I feel happy that when I open my laptop in the morning, that there is news constantly about same-sex marriage. I'm receiving calls from TV channels saying, "We'd like your opinion about being a woman married with children, raising kids." That they're opening up these dialogues. But
yeah.
my point is that this feels like I said on my one of my social media handles yesterday. It feels like a seesaw. One day it feels really good. One moment, actually, not even a day. One moment it feels like clapping. The next moment, like So we are like basically our lives, and I feel that our lives are hanging in the hands of somebody else. And then we hear people like the bar. I want to read that excerpt actually,
Hmm.
Mugdha.
Hmm.
One part of it felt very interesting for me. They said the joint meeting, the resolution I'm talking about, which was shared by the BCI chairman Manan Kumar Mishra. He said
Hmm.
that the resolution has been passed by the bar after a joint meeting that took place in the auditorium of the Bar Council of India, which included all the state bar councils.
Hmm.
So I'm going to ask you two basic questions, but I'll first let me read the excerpt. The resolution said the joint meeting is of the unanimous opinion that, in view of the sensitivity of the issue of same sex marriage, having a spectrum of stakeholders from diverse social religious background, it is advisable that is dealt with after an elaborative consultative process involving different social religious group by the competent legislature. See, I think all of us agree it has to be, you know, in accordance with whatever is right, and in by a collective conversation. But my
Hmm.
first of all, I'm going to ask you a basic question. Like I said, what
Hmm.
is the Bar Council of India for people who don't know?
So, Bar Council of India is a statutory body which governs the conduct and of the advocates in the country, right? Compliance, ethics, code of conduct. So basically, it's a governing body for advocates in India. It's a statutory body, right? Now, see, wherever, in court, in our offices, in our homes, in movies, all those people that you see, they are a reflection of our society, right? They don't live in a vacuum. They come from our society. They are our neighbors, they are our friends, they are, people that we know, as acquaintances. The problem is that there hasn't been enough debate, there hasn't been enough awareness about what the same sex marriage entails. There's a lot of wrong information. There's a lot of you know clarity on there's a lack of clarity on what the Supreme Court is trying to do. The Supreme, especially someone like Justice Chandrachud, Justice Kaul, they're one of the finest legal minds in our country. They are the protectors of our constitution. They know that they're not a legislative body. They're not trying to create a new legislature. That's not what is happening before the court. The petitioners have gone before the court asking for equal rights because that's what the constitution guarantees them as citizens of our country. Right to voting, right to equality, right? Freedom of speech, right to life. Now, what is being argued is that my right to marry, my civil rights has to be considered as an extension of Article 21, right? So, if there's a vacuum, then if my rights are validated, if I think it is a right, I only have to believe that it is a right for a court to hear it, right? Now, what court holds ultimately, that's a different thing. But I can go to the court if I believe my rights are being violated. And the court will have to hear me to decide whether what I'm saying is a right or not, whether it is a constitutionally protected right or not. Is something the court has to decide. So it's very unfortunate what the BCI
Yeah.
has passed, and I mean, no one body, no individual can proclaim to be the sole repository of, the views of the entire country. I mean, it's absurd. I mean, everybody knows
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not like he votes,
Yeah, so
from.
that's sorry, Mugdha. That is why I asked you that question. Like, what is the Bar Council of India? So, to me, if you're saying that it is a statutory body of protecting basically of all the advocates and lawyers in the country, then is it your voice? Are they talking on behalf of you without actually consulting you? So, where is the data from? The 99% of the country they're saying I'm passing the resolution on behalf of the Bar Council. So, who are they passing this resolution on behalf of? Who are these people they passed it on and then made this in 99.9% as a data from God knows from where?
Yeah, I see. It's very similar to a member of parliament making a statement, right? Now, what he says in the parliament, because we are not a direct democracy like how Switzerland is, where each and every legislation, each and every law, the the citizens have a say in every single thing. Like they decide on every single law. We are a indirect form of democracy, right? We elect our representatives and they act, and it's mostly in most constituencies it's one MP for 30 lakh people,
Sorry, I think Mugdha is having trouble again with her connection. Just bear with us. Mugdha is in Delhi and where the connectivity is poor, as we know. Not always, sometimes. So just wait for Mugdha. Mugdha is going to come back very quickly. I mean, I don't know whether anyone of the audience is following the hearing. It's very interesting. We've been following. There are live feeds going on. You know exactly who's speaking, what is the topic they're speaking on, what is the petition they're listening to. It's really interesting. So, Mugdha was just sharing about
yeah.
watching the live streaming, how interesting the live streaming is, and how interesting when somebody makes a comment and how it is approached. That is also important. And it's so well, like we talk about homework, so well. I mean, I can just see it and I can, as a layperson, actually understand what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm talking about coming back to the bar council. So when they make a blatant, this blanket comment, like what they did, to me that is very damaging. It's very dangerous because they're
Yeah.
speaking to me. I can laugh at it and say, 99.9% of the people they're talking about in the country, we all know statistically 7 to 10% at least of the country itself is from the community. So we're not going to talk against ourselves. So that itself, you but when they say that on behalf of the Bar Council of India, that is where I wonder, like, who is this Bar Council of India? Are you telling me that all the people who wear these black uniforms, are they against us? 99.9%, But you see, that's the impression it gives, and which is where I wanted your clarification.
That can't be. I mean, Mr. Singhvi, Dr. Menaka Goswami, all those lawyers fighting for writ petitioners are also advocates who are governed by the Advocates Act and who are given a license to practice by the BCI. So, of course, I mean, it's. I don't agree with it. Honestly, like that resolution, in reality, has no value. Let's just say that it's just people voicing their opinion through one medium or the other. Right now that body, like they said, let's use this. Maybe all the members agreed that, yeah, I think this is something the legislature should legislate on, and this should be discussed in parliament and not be heard in Supreme Court. So let's get together, let's pass a board resolution. What effect does it have? It doesn't have any effect. So
So in the Supreme Court, I mean, I know that there have been lots of arguments. Menka Gandhi, I was listening. Menka Gandhi, I'm saying Menka Guruswamy, sorry, was putting her argument so clearly today, articulating it so well. But then, does she because we can't see the view? I was listening. I was getting updates online. So when she is speaking, uh, does she get? Do you on the spot get a feeling whether her argument is being taken positively, or do you actually get to see, oh, no, 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 the argument is actually being opposed as well? Because we don't get that sense from here.
Uh, See, the issue with a, a lot of lawyers on this side, and I think that was this main distinction between, if you look at Mr. Singhvi's argument, Dr. Manu Singhvi's arguments, they were not. It wasn't an a passionate speech about rights. See, at the end of the day, you are a lawyer, right? You're not going there saying that, but this right is violated, that right is violated. We have this right. We need protection under this law. We need this. That's activism, right? As a lawyer, the court already knows your rights are violated. That's why you've come to the court. The court already knows all of those things because that is part of your petition. You, as a lawyer, have to assist the court in finding a way in the existing framework, right? So there is a distinction that sort of gets blurred when when it's not just this case, but it happens in most of the cases involving human rights, right? The lines between activism and advocacy get blurred, and that's why sometimes you lose track that your emotions take over objectively. The court kept asking, not the Guruswami also, is sections 19, 20, 21A. You sought for you said marriage is bouquet of rights. You have asked for certain rights, like a right to inherit, right to get gratuity payment after the death of the spouse, or get some money from provident fund or employ pension benefits and all of that. Now, see, I'll take you through the Special Marriage Act. You see, the Special Marriage Act is available on Google. You can just go through it. Now you read which this is what Justice Chandrajud asked her today. Section 19. It's about effect of marriage on a member of undivided family. Right? It says the marriage solemnized under this act of any member of any undivided family who professes the Hindu, Buddhist, Sikh, or Jain religion shall be deemed to effect his severance from such family. Okay, that's section 19. Now you go to section 21A, which is the special provision. This says that where the marriage is solemnized under this act of any person who professes Hindu, Buddhist, Sikh, or Jain religion with a person who also is of the same religion, this section 19, shall not apply, and so much section 20 as creates a disability shall not apply. Now, what that means is, why the 19 says that if you get married under Special Marriage Act, you undivided Hindu family, you will not get the same benefits. You will be considered as you having been severed your relations from the family, and you won't be considered in the succession of that undivided family. You won't inherit anything. But 21A says that if you are marrying, that if both parties are of the same religion, then you won't be hit by section 19. But problem is then it is going to personal laws, succession laws. Undivided of Hindu undivided family has very different laws for spouses of a son and spouse of a daughter. The son's wife, the benefits given to a son's wife is very different than the benefits given to the daughter's husband in the existing frame of things. That will again be embarking into personal laws. So you see, they want to do it, but they understand the limitations of the existing statute. And that is the question which he asked, that I cannot read 19, 20, 21A to say that this involves same-sex persons also, because then that is going into personal laws. Personal laws are very different, the way they treat a son and a daughter, and that's a very different area which the court has kept itself out of. So then, if you won't get the benefit of 21A in this act, and you will be hit by section 19, which will be considered that you have severed yourself from the undivided Hindu family, then how will you get the benefit of inheritance, which essentially you are trying to ask through this writ petition? You see the
Yeah. So it's, again, like I said, so complex, right? But
yeah.
this is where the expertise come in. That's where people like us petition. Oh, I'm an intervener, and there are other petitioners and people who are waiting on the outskirts, basically saying, "Oh, okay, this is happening." But for a lay person, Mugdha, we are assuming that when somebody has seen or understood the law, has seen a problem, there's a solution also. Is the solution also provided, or is the solution that you have to think through? So when Justice Chandrachud asked this question, what's the solution provided? Do we know what we want in return instead of?
See, there are some solutions which, that's why I'm saying that I don't know how the court, I'm pretty sure through this judgment, and I'm positive about this, they will they will open some window for us. They will not recognize same-sex marriage. I don't think it's possible in the current framework. If they do, then that will be a huge. I mean, I'll be shocked if that happens, and I mean, great for our community, for the LGBTQ community. Mm, but I think this is something which the legislature will have to enact everywhere. If you look at UK, you look at US, everywhere the legislature has introduced, has brought in those laws. UK, it's very interesting. I think everyone should go and also read the the Same Sex Couples Marriage Act of United Kingdom. Right, it is so comprehensive, where they had to change the meaning of the word husband. Husband can also mean, Oxford Dictionary, if you go and see, husband is a man legally married to a wife, to a woman, to a woman. The marriage changes that, that marriage act, special marriage, the Same Sex Marriage Act of UK changes the meaning of the term husband, changes the meaning of the term wife. So the legislature, it's not so easy. It involves amending the existing meaning. It involves adding explanation, proviso to the existing terms, introducing new terms. All these three exercises can only be done by the legislature. It can't be done by the judiciary.
Wow. I think that we have to just keep the momentum going. It's started. It's finally, we are talking about it, like I keep saying.
Yeah,
It's just that. And I think in the community, like we are talking to many people all the time. The conversations are going, like not just on social media or WhatsApp, but also we're calling each other up. And the general consensus, the general sense I get, so we're talking about law and society. So I'm a part of that society. The general sense I get is there's a lot of optimism that something is going to come out of it, like you said. Now, we don't know whether we'll get same sex marriage or marriage equality or same gender equality rights, but something will come out of it. Now, there has been whispers about civil unions, and I don't know how different is civil union to a marriage. Is this something that you can share?
hi.
Sorry, Mugdha, did
Can
you
you
hear
hear
me?
me?
I can hear you. Mugdha, can you hear me? People watching, Mugdha is in Delhi.
I'm not able to hear anything.
Do you want to come back? Yeah. Sorry, Mugdha will come back very quickly. Rahul, thank you for being on the show as always. It's so lovely to see you, Major Ali. Fantastic to have you on the show. Manju. My friend Manju is also here. And yeah, please, if you have any questions, because it is quite complicated, it is quite intense, it is quite different to what we thought it was. We're sitting and saying, oh, we need same sex marriage rights, marriage equality. But is it as simple as that? Rahul, fantastic to have you here again. I'm going to have questions taken from you as well. Let us know whatever questions you need to ask, because we are looking at it from a pure layperson's point of view. And as I am watching the petition, I'm just realizing that it is not that simple. There are layers and layers and layers and layers of complexities there. So as people who don't understand law, we want to fight for our rights. But I keep thinking, what's going to happen? How do we stand by each other? And people watching, please also understand that we have to hold each other's hands through all this. I am very proud of our community, whether we live in India, whether we live outside of India, whichever part of the world. All of us Indians from our community and our allies have come together. And I know for the love of it, we are all holding each other. So look after yourselves as well. Look after your well being. I'm going to have in the future show talk about well-being as well, and how to look after our mental and emotional states through all this. Because for me especially, some of the comments, some of the things that I hear, some of the media that I've been watching can be quite triggering. It takes me back to my time when things were really difficult. So let's all look after each other and ourselves. And the show wasn't going to be about me. It seems like it is going to be about me. But we'll wait for 2 more minutes. If you're not able to get Mugdha to connect back, I'm really sorry. But I think we still have had a lot that we learned from her today, a lot of information that we didn't have access to. If anyone has any questions of any kind, no matter how simple, how complex, or how silly you think it is, please leave it in the comments and we will make sure that we get an answer for you. Those who haven't here, please write to the viewsroom@gmail.com. Those of you who haven't been following the petition and or the hearing, sorry, there are fantastic arguments going on. I think I would give it a try because some of the arguments are very interesting. In fact, I wanted to read something that Justice Chandrachud said today. To me, that's very interesting. I'm going to read this just as is, okay? He's referred to instances of alcohol abuse by heterosexuals in families and the adverse impact it has on children. He said he did not agree to the submission, even at the risk of getting trolled. What happens when there's heterosexual couple and when the child sees domestic violence? Will that child grow up in a normal atmosphere of a father becoming an alcoholic, coming home and trashing the mother every night and asking for money for alcohol, he said. So these are interesting conversations because we have been told that, oh, people from the LGBTQ community, you cannot adopt children, the children will grow up with mental health issues. And he's saying, but what about children who are born to heterosexual parents who are not safe in their own homes? They are abused by their own parents, sometimes very violently abused. So are we keeping it safe? And Mugdha is back. I can see Mugdha. Thank you, Mugdha, for making the effort. Sorry, audience, again. I kept on bantering about things. So I'm just going to read out something that we have some comments that we have. Manju Patel Nair, who's a very dear friend of mine, she lives here in London. She's of Indian origin, married as well to her partner Rakhi. Both wonderful people, and for them also, they're invested in this because they go to India quite often. And as I keep saying, that people like us, we would love to invest in the diaspora, would love to invest in India, but we know at the same time that we can't nominate our partners because there's no guarantee that we will leave it for them, in our will. So we just don't even get there. So Manju says, grateful to Mugdha for exploring this so complicated. We are lucky to have this community to support our well-being too. Very, very true. Rahul Sharma says, we know in Nepal asked Parliament to draft a law, but nothing happened in the last 4 5 years also. We have
Right.
we have got Abhijit from Ahmedabad, who's also a very dear friend of ours. He says, I'm hopeful, but difficult to trust the parliamentarians who are already biased and have different attitudes towards LGBTQIA community. How long we need to wait? So is there something that you want to share basis this, Mugdha?
See, I said this in our last webinar also. It's not going to be an easy fight, right? We'll have to start from the scratch. We'll have to start educating people. We'll have to include curriculum. It starts from there, right? First of all, it's only the LGBTQ community has been able to come out in the open only in the last 3 4 years because everybody was shut down because of COVID. So effectively the LGBT community got only like say 2 years, right? So I think this has opened up new avenues for us, right? People are debating. Every day there is some of the other national debate happening on what should be done. Everybody's taking note of it. Everybody's saying, let the legislature do it. In fact, Amit Shah, who's the home minister, he also said, for the first time, we should debate this in the parliament. Now that's a huge statement, right? So far nobody was talking about it, nobody was willing to debate it. Now it has opened doors for parliament to debate. So I don't think we should lose faith. I really think that Hinduism and Hindu society, even if we don't consider the Abrahamic laws, but even the Hindu culture, it has always been so. You look at the ancient scriptures. That's the reference we gave during our 377 also, the acceptance of the third gender in our society, how they are how they are equivalent to God even till date. Everyone, it's a belief among the Hindu community that the transgenders have a divine touch. And you see people giving them money on specific days. and hoping they give them the blessing. So our culturally, historically, we have been very we have been a very progressive society. We have come a long way, and I think with our very strong constitutional values, and I don't think we should lose hope. I
Yeah,
think
so Mukta, I agree with you. Nobody wants to lose hope, but I still, when I hold this hand like that, it feels like a seesaw because both
right.
sides. I saw that video of Amit Shah, and
Hmm.
when he said, in Hindi, he was speaking, he was saying that all our country, our societies will, we stand for a society, and our society we need to be the voice of a society. And I
Yeah.
instantly knew that as soon as you take this to Parliament, we know what the government of India's, uh, you know, uh, submission was to us. They are opposing it. So what happens? Will that be then? Does that threaten us in a manner that if it goes to Parliament, then we have zero guarantee? At least now we know that we have some chance. So that worries me. And I was on a show with on another channel. I can't remember, NDTV or India Today. I can't remember recently. And there was this person. She was an activist, a Hindu activist. She called herself, and she
Hmm.
absolutely said it was unnatural. She said it 5 times. It's unnatural, 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 unnatural. She said this is against Hindu religion. I'm religious and I'm Hindu, and I will never allow it. I will never allow it. She said this,
Yeah,
and
but she's the world. She's not the queen of the country, fortunately. So
but
it's not up to
the,
her.
but sadly, Mukta, these people speak as if they're speaking on behalf of all of us. They're speaking of the entire Hindu community. They're speaking of entire Indian society. And this is where I was going to come to you about the Bar Council of India. Again, as a
Yeah.
layperson, when
Hmm.
somebody like the Bar Council of India puts out a resolution like that,
Hmm.
what can be done about it? Can we protect ourselves by saying that, well, give us the statistics, tell us where
I
it came from?
honestly, we're giving too much importance to this resolution to BCI. Okay, they come up with some or the other, disappointing resolutions, but it has no legal effect. It has no legal sanctity, honestly. So,
Okay.
it's like, yeah. So just forget about it. I
We'll
think
put it
forget.
into this and then the rubbish bin, basically.
Yeah,
Manju was
I mean,
asked, yeah, sorry,
comes
go.
and yeah, I mean, if somebody comes and say that I won't allow it, you say I will allow it. What is the effect of it? Like it means nothing, right?
Yeah,
You allow, you're not the queen of the world. You're not, we are, we're not a monarchy, and you're not the queen. We are a
exactly. She said she was not comfortable with it. And I love the answer response that one of our other petitioners, Aditi Anand, gave to her. And she said, sorry, for your discomfort, I'm not going to give up my rights. If you're uncomfortable, that's your problem. You know?
yeah,
It's not
absolutely.
my problem. Why should I give away my rights because you're uncomfortable with who I am? So
Right.
Manju is coming back to this question: is can you tell us the difference between marriage and civil union that we talk about here?
So the concept of civil union is alien to the Indian culture, right? In foreign, you have, it's equivalent to being a partner and a spouse. It's the same definition. So a partner is someone, say your lover, or your mate, where you cohabit as partners, right? It doesn't have the legal sanctity of a marriage. So that's the difference between. So the rights, of course, in UK now they have that same sex marriage act. Earlier, their civil union was the term given so that to not upset the church.
Yeah,
Over there, marriage was it's a completely different concept, and the church was hell bent against recognizing same-sex marriage. So the parliament in UK created a way in which they could balance the conservative side of the country with the progressive side of the and the constitutional values of the country. So they came up with a very fine balance where they said that it is not marriage, but they will have all the rights. It will be akin to marriage, but not marriage. So it was just a wordplay, right? That Civil Union Act had more or less the same rights as a heterosexual
marriage.
couple. Yeah, and then few years later, after 9 years, they said that we need to we can't continue having these double standards. We can't continue being hypocrites. Let's just accept that we as a country accept same-sex marriage, and then they brought about that same-sex marriage. So it
Yeah.
took time.
It gave UK as a country about 9 years time to come to terms with what a civil union of same sex couple can look,
Yeah,
right? And they enacted a new law because the existing framework again
yeah,
did not permit them to, because that would have completely destroyed the meaning, the words, the legal language, or those statutes. It's very complex, right? And just because it is complex, that's not good enough a reason for a society or a parliament to not touch it or avoid going into that area, right? Defining what consummation means for lesbians is
yeah.
going to be difficult in Indian society, right? Because that will again be a ground of divorce because
Yeah,
of marriage.
yeah, yeah, inconsummate. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. A divorce can be granted to heterosexual basis. That. So I have another very interesting question from my pride, your pride. Very
Mm.
interesting question. So thanks for putting this question. This has been asked before as well, by the way. If a
Mm.
trans man marries a
Mm.
cis woman, is this legal in this case when marriage was registered?
Mm.
The trans man was cis presenting, so no questions were asked by register. It's very interesting. So a trans man marries a woman. So then what happens? The trans man was cis presenting. So was a
Mm.
man married to a cis man married to a cis woman. So heterosexual marriage.
Yeah.
But
So
then
see,
changed. Sorry, did I understand the way that was said? If a trans man marries a cis woman, is this legal in this case when marriage was registered? The trans man was cis presenting, so no questions were asked by register.
okay, so it's the same. When he has converted, he's biologically a man. He converted. I mean, he converted from being a woman to a man, and married a cis woman.
Woman.
So
Yeah.
people law requires certainty. At some point, we can't have, so like I think even Harish had explained it to me that sex is a matter is biology, gender is your psychology, right? And the way law will look, the law will need some level of certainty, right, in order to enforce it. For that, it will look at, currently it's looking at your biology. Biologically, what is your current status today? What you were before, what you will become later. That is not what it is concerned with. Before the registrar, you are a biological man, if you are a biological man, and if you're getting married to a biological woman, currently, if you both are that, then it's a valid marriage.
But
If you change, if
yeah,
you
but if
change
you're
your
biologically a woman and presenting as a man, so I'm saying it's just far more complex than
no,
this, right?
no, if you are biologically a woman and you're presenting yourself as a man and you're getting married to a woman,
Woman. Yeah.
that's called marriage, because the in its existing form, it's only recognizing your
Yeah.
sex,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, recognizing your gender. Your mentally, if you were thinking yourself as a man, that's not what the law is concerned with. The law is concerned with your sex. Right now, do you possess a male genitalia or a female genitalia?
Yeah. So that is the starting point, right? For us to redefine that whole thing. That is where the conversations are also going. So sex and gender. Have to understand that there is sex and there is gender. And that is why there is the LGBTQIA, there is the lesbians and there's a gay and there's trans. There's so many, and all of us have to be looked after and protected by law. Yeah, and given
Right,
the same rights, equal rights. And that is why it's called marriage equality. So this
right.
is what audience watching, listening, understand that this is not as simple as it seems. Like we've been fighting for our
Yeah,
rights, and rightly so, but it is complex. It's something that we have to look much deeper into, and we have to trust and believe that we are in the right hands. That's what I feel, Mukta. Every day I tell myself, and I listen to Justice Chandrachud's talk, really everybody else also, but he personally, I feel that he's holding that, that torch for us. And I feel
yeah,
that yes, we are well looked after, and we are going to be well looked after. So,
yeah.
so, so that's good. I've just got a comment saying that registrar didn't realize. Look, so this person looked like a man and registered wedding with a biological woman. Registrar
Hmm.
didn't realize the man was a biological woman, so registered the marriage. Apparently, this happened in India recently.
Hmm.
Registrar went only by appearance, and I think that is the point you were making. So you go by the appearance, you go by the sex that is presented, right? Gender is forgotten.
Yeah, I mean how do you check? I mean, you in your Aadhaar card, do you present yourself as a male or a female or a transgender? So if in your Aadhaar card you have mentioned your sex, or in any ID card, your every ID card in India it will show your gender, right? He would have seen your gender, your sex. And if you were a woman and if you have wrongfully put on your Aadhaar card that you're a man, then that's a misrepresentation, right? So that marriage is void, and he could actually take action against you and deregister your marriage if you have done that, because currently it's not permitted. Because if you are a woman, and then your Aadhaar card should reflect that you are a woman, and if he had looked at the Aadhaar card and seen that it says female, and then the second person next to you is also a female, he would not have registered that marriage.
So basically, this marriage is not legal in that case. So the marriage
Yeah,
ID says male, but you actually are female
you can,
biologically.
you can actually take action against the person under
So
the
it's a
penal code.
misrepresentation.
Yeah,
But this is where it gets very complex, right? And but this is where I say that for all of us, we also are learning. A lot of
yeah,
us are learning. I mean, even although I'm from the community, I'm still learning, trying to understand. So society is also learning. We have to allow society that opportunity to learn. So that is why, while there is law, and there is the other side also, society as well. And that question that I'm going to ask you, the last question, instead of getting into a lot more information debate about the
one comment I wanted to make is the,
yeah.
see, how marriage right is different from other rights is that marriage is a, it's not just a legal document, a marriage certificate, right? Marriage is an acceptance by the society of your relationship, right? So your marital rights cannot exist in a vacuum. It's very important that your marriage, besides getting legal sanctity, also gets some form of public acceptance,
Yep.
right? It's very different from other fundamental rights, because your other fundamental rights are not constantly being engaged or tested by the society, right? But marriages, tomorrow a couple who considers themselves as good as husband and wife, but if they have not registered their marriage, if they have not performed, say, the rites, the Hindu, the marriage
Yep.
rites under what laws, the society will not look at them as a married couple. They won't get that acceptance from the society. So we are not saying that. So I'm not saying that we need to wait for the last man to come on board and accept it. But you need, the LGBT community does not live in a vacuum.
Yeah.
We cannot shun, we cannot completely sort of cancel out all the noises who are opposing it. We need to keep engaging with them. We need people who are in power to help us make our voices reach to different corners of the country, educate them, engage with them in dialogue, explain to them how there is no difference, right? So we
Yeah.
need from various professions and communities to come on board, and be a part of that dialogue,
Yeah.
engage, educate, right, and propagate. We
Yeah.
need these things for our marriage to be, for community's marriage to be accepted.
I agree. And because these are all the pillars of society, and like the IPS came and supported us, there are others supporting us. So all we
Yeah,
need is people just coming together, having conversations, having relevant conversations, educated conversations,
yeah.
informed conversations, and just sharing. And I'm just going to have this final comment, and then I have a final question for you, Mugdha. I know it's been a long day for you. So my pride, your pride has continued with this conversation, saying that it has happened in a few cases I've known. They're talking about the trans conversation. They have changed their gender to male and are cis passing and have the support of natal families, so no red flags for the registrar.
Hmm.
So this is exactly what Mugdha was saying, that then in that case it's a misrepresentation, right?
Yeah.
Because you have presented yourself in a certain manner, got yourself married, and then is that marriage legal because you're actually presenting some other way, but biological you're something else.
Right. Yeah, that's illegal. Misrepresenting to a public official is actually an offense under the Indian Penal Code. So even if people who know around you will not raise any objection, but if tomorrow someone does find out, you will be in trouble. So if anybody is watching and is wanting to pull something off like that, then I would actually discourage them from doing it. right? LGBT community should not, try to trick the system, by doing these things. We don't need to do that. LGBT community does not need to do that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, sure. But it may not be a trick. It may just be how it is without even realizing it. So, because the intent is to marry. And then if that person is, I'm just making an assumption.
yeah, no. If you
Violent.
know,
Yeah.
it's not, and if you are still, sort of
Yes.
changing your gender on Aadhaar card, knowing that you are not legally recognized as a woman or a man or of the opposite gender, then in effect you are sort of, you're aware of your actions. You know
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
indulging something is not permitted legally.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know what I'll do is one day on one session, because these questions have come up in the past as well. On one session, I will actually have a couple of trans people, people representing that community, have you back, and then we can have a proper conversation, because let them also put forward their thoughts, their feedback, why, what happens, how does it happen, and why does it happen, and whether
Right.
it is legal. And like you said, it is illegal basically. Now, in terms of my last question, Mugdha, I want to say, does law come first and society change, that brings change in society, or society should change before the law changes? I asked this question last time as well.
uh See, in some cases we need the society to take lead. In some cases we need the law to take lead. Like for example, I think when the court decriminalized homosexuality, I think a society had by and large reached a point where, because the government also did not really challenge that, right? There was not major debate. It was already, we had already reached a stage where it was a consensus that, come on, we can't be criminalizing homosexuality. It's a very natural phenomenon, and culturally also we have never, we, India as a country never had such harsh view of homosexuality. We've always been very inclusive and liberal. So without a fight, without much fight from the government, from state, from there wasn't much opposition to it, even as a society, for decriminalization of homosexuality. And the court sort of, decriminalized it also, but also because of jurisprudence more than the society's acceptance. In some cases we need the society to take lead. In some cases we need the law to lead the society. So
Sure. So good. So I hope that the balance continues. I think right now we are in balance because the conversations are happening at the Supreme Court. The society is also having their own narrative, own conversations around it. So I think this is where we need to be, Mugdha. And I feel that we need to be patient. We all need to not get too anxious and nervous and start creating, anxiety for everyone, because like I was saying just before you came back on, that a lot of it is very triggering for the community. A lot of these conversations sometimes can be triggering, and I understand, because I've gone through. I had to shut myself away the other day because things come up for all of us. We remember things that have happened which are quite traumatic, and for some it is a
right.
living example right now. So we just have to be patient, know that the law is on our side. We have good people working for us on our behalf, and we have experts, you know. And on
Yeah.
that note, Mugdha, I want to really thank you so much again for giving your time. I know you've
Thank you.
had a long day, but I'm going to bring you back.
LGBT community is not alone in its fight, right? Even if it has to continue fighting, what it needs to sort of feel good about is that there are people who are in power. There are people who, belong to the, who have a voice, before the parliament, before the society, in the court, who are with LGBTQ community. So you're not alone in that fight. It may be a long, we may have to continue the journey. We may have to keep fighting, but along the way you will gather support. There'll be more people joining in. There'll be more people, voicing their support. So I think it's a positive step,
You
this,
make me feel so hopeful. Thank you. It's a revolution. That's what I feel. We're going to garner support along the way, and we are not alone. The LGBTQ plus community is not alone, as Mugdha says. So thank you so much. And those who have joined in, thank you for your comments, for sharing your views. Do continue to share this, share your feedback on theviewsroom@gmail.com. And I need to thank our partners as usual, which is the 3 partners that we have at this point. Lotus Visual, thank you so much for your support. The Gay Indian Community, and our digital partners, Digital Fix. Nicola, thank you as a producer of the Views Room, and of course, our wonderful, wonderful audience. If you wish to take part on our show or need to share feedback, please write to us on theviewsroom@gmail.com. Keep coming back. We are on YouTube. This will be on the YouTube, recorded and kept there at Raga Olga De Silva. That's my channel. If you want to follow me at Totally Out Now on Twitter, Instagram, please write to us. And Rahul Sharma, thank you always for joining in. Manju, thank you always for joining in. To all our audience, much love, and we'll keep fighting. We'll keep hoping. Thank you, Mugdha.
Thank you.